Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. I'm your host Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. In today's episode we are going to preview our round 19 clash against the Fremantle Dockers at the MCG on Sunday. Roll the intro.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Just a quick shout out to our sponsors, the Hopper Bros Barbecue. Thank you so much for everything that you guys do and your contribution to the channel. If you haven't already, make sure you give them a follow on Instagram and you'll get all your tips and tricks and everything barbecue. So the Freo Dockers on Sunday, just so everyone knows, there's a time change for the game. Instead of it being at 3:20, they've moved it to 3:15. Shock horror, 5 minutes. So make sure you get the train or you drive 3 hours earlier to the game on Sunday to make that 5 minutes up. Now, let's just get straight into it. The last time we played Fremantle, we won by 14 points and we played them at Optus Oval. I think it might have been round 9. I can't remember off the top of my head. We had that mentality going in that, it was the backs against the wall. There were players missing, whatever. It was that Western Australian dirty pies, from like that saying from 2020 when we beat West Coast up there in that final. But yeah, we played such a good game of football. We just hung in there against them. And it still blows my mind to this day that when we played against them that time in Perth, we had lost every single major stat: clearances, tackles, kicks, disposals, marks, everything around the ground we lost. But we beat them on the scoreboard, which I still think to this day is one of our best wins of the season. Now, coming into Sunday's game at 3:15, we potentially could be getting back Beau McCreary. We could potentially be getting back Bobby Hill, Billy Frampton. I don't think Jordan De Goey is too far away. I still think they'll probably put him through the VFL as of next week. So he's probably 2 to 3 weeks away, but he'll still get that time to gel in the side before the final starts. The biggest one for me is if we get Billy Frampton in. Now, I know you got the pressure with Beau McCreary and you got the forward pressure with Bobby Hill and stuff like that, but I just want to touch on this first. When you have someone like Billy Frampton who's been playing the way that he's played this season, missing, the structure in the back line sort of changes. You've got to move the magnets around the back line and your matchups might not be 100% because Billy Frampton will take that main lockdown defender or lockdown forward and he'll be that lockdown defender. We haven't had that. Against the side like Fremantle, who usually are fairly tall, he's someone that we're going to need, especially down in the back line. With Howe being out as well, it's going to mean that Darcy Moore can still play his role. He can still play that intercept marking style of play more than what he would if Billy Frampton and Jeremy Howe were both out. So for me, that's one to watch. I think if Billy Frampton comes in, I think that's a massive bonus for us. So looking at the game, Fremantle versus Hawthorn last week, which I thought was one of the games of the season, and Freo did an amazing job in that last quarter to obviously hit the front and run away with the victory. Are they going to be able to do that against us at the MCG? Personally, myself, I think they're going to take it up to us quite hard. I don't think it's going to be a blowout where, Collingwood wins by, 50-something points like we did against Carlton or anything like that. I think this is going to be a very tightly contested game. Fremantle obviously have more to play for than what we do. But with that being said, sorry, there's something in my eye. With that being said, I genuinely think that we're going to come out extremely frustrated, extremely angry in this game, and we're going to have a point to prove. If we keep on going in with the mentality in games that we haven't got much to play for, we're sitting clear on top, blah, 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 sooner or later, the gap's going to close, and then we're going to find ourselves trying to hold on for a top 2 spot more than what we are now. We need to win this game. This is now going to be a very important game for Collingwood because if we're able to win against Fremantle, we take care of Richmond next week. Our whole season looks so much brighter. Our whole season looks perfectly intact. You go 1 loss, 1 win. We're still in that hunt like, oh, hang on a second. We haven't even secured a top 4 spot just yet, let alone a top 2 or top spot. So we need to get this win against Fremantle. I believe if we get this win against Fremantle and we beat Richmond next week, then we're pretty much, we will be locked in, I reckon, pretty much for top 4. So we will have the double chance. But I want to get that top 2 spot. There is no difference between finishing first and second, but there will be a difference if second and third are pretty close to each other and we fall back in the pack. So with all the work that we've done so far this season, this win against Fremantle becomes extremely important. Now, looking at some of Fremantle's key players, Sam Switkowski, his last quarter, he kicked 3 goals last week against Hawthorn, but his last quarter, I felt like he was like the barometer of the charge to overrun Hawthorn. I thought his forward line pressure, his goal kicking, the positions he found himself in was amazing. And I think that's something that we're going to have to watch quite heavily, especially in the later parts of the game, if it's fairly congested and fairly tight. And also at the start of the game, I feel like he's a player for them that can really set the tone. Now, another player for Fremantle who, I'm going to be honest, I don't rate him that much, but his game against Hawthorn was sensational, and that's Michael Frederick. I felt like so far at times this season, he's been fairly quiet. He'll have one okay game, but his game against Hawthorn was great. His burst through the middle, shrugging off the tackles, his forward line, his delivery into the forward line was lethal. I genuinely think that if he gets a bit of a run on, and he gets some confidence going, then he can be quite dangerous in that burst through the middle, which is something that we really can't afford. Now, another thing too is Josh Tracy. His marking I thought was sensational. He's so when the ball would be kicked down the line, he was that big option, just clunking marks, very similar to what a Darcy Cameron does for us, or when like a Dan McStay pushes up that little bit forward throughout the ground. He was just taking really important marks, and he was basically setting up the play for Fremantle, which I thought was fantastic. And I think that he's going to be a really big danger for us, similar to the way, I'm not going to say he's nowhere near as good as Max Gawn, but every time we play against Melbourne, it tends to be a period of the game where it's kick to kick between the ruckmen. I feel like he's got that ability and also to try and shut us down and sort of do some intercept marking. So that's definitely one to watch there. The Sarong and Brayshaw mix was massive against Hawthorn. They both had 29 disposals. Now, I know that, and I've said this before, I'm not big on stats, but there are some stats that I do want to throw out there today because I think it's important just to keep in the back of your mind. Not only did they get both 29 disposals, I'm going to give you a list now of things that Fremantle smashed Hawthorn in. So disposals, Fremantle beat Hawthorn at 20 more throughout the game. Oh, sorry, in the final quarter. This is when the pressure was on. They had 8 more tackles in them. They had 9 more marks in them. They had 3 more clearances from the middle. They are not stoppages around the ground. We're talking like center clearances. Inside 50s, they beat them by 7. It was 17-10 inside 50s, right? So, and then obviously the score was 4 goals for in the last quarter to 2 behind. So they beat them by 4 goals to in the last quarter. So they had a pretty crazy run. Now, our last quarters are pretty good too, which I'm going to touch on in a second. Personally, myself, Sarong and Brayshaw are going to be deadly in the middle, so we're really going to have to keep right on them. And I do think Wagner will get the job on Nick Dacos if they choose to go down the tagging route. Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel. Just a quick message out there. If you haven't already, could you please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel? It would mean the world. We're getting heaps of views. The traction's been really good. But yeah, we'd love to get the subscribers up. So if you haven't already, please hit the like button, subscribe, and you'll get your daily dose or your weekly dose of all things Collingwood for the fans, from the stands. Call it as you see it. And as always, guys, go the Pies. So if you haven't already, please make sure you jump on the YouTube channel and you watch the live that I did last night with Nate from Nate Talks Pies. It was amazing. I had so much fun. It was one of my most favorite fan forums that I've done. We both worked really well. His knowledge and what he was saying and stuff like that was just like different points of view, different aspect of things was fantastic. And we did preview the Fremantle game a little bit. So after this video, if you're not doing anything on this Wednesday, or if you're bored at work or whatever, please make sure you jump on. It goes for about an hour and a half, and it was just a phenomenal chat, and we'll definitely get him back on the show. But we did preview the Fremantle game a little bit in that one there. But for this one here, my prediction for this game is that, well, before I get to my prediction, I'll tell you what's going to be deadly. Our forward line. I think our forward line is going to absolutely obliterate their defense. But the key is how we get the delivery into the forward line. If we just go the hit and hope, the hospital ball, the long one up in the air, I genuinely don't, it's going to be too congested. We're going to have to pray for a mark or a hole in the man free kick. They're going to have smalls that are just going to push it out quite easy. If we could just pinpoint the targets in the forward line and have the delivery better, and it goes for most games, but especially when you know our forward line is so much better, or is going to dominate another team's defense, which I think we've got the capability for a big score over the next 2 weeks. MCG, wide ground. If you hit a target, if Pat Lipinski comes back into this game, which I think he will, and he can hit a target, whether it's one of the Triple M's or it's Jamie Elliott or it's a Lockie Schultz or anything like that, it's going to be on. We are going to have a big score this week. If it's just poo deliveries into the forward line, it's going to be manic pressure, and then you're going to rely on someone like a Lockie Schultz who's going to have to do the tackling and the pressure and stuff to allow us to create an open space to get the cheap handball out to score a goal. You don't want that this week. I mean, if it'll happen during the game at times, and that's fine. But you just want to make sure that we're able to hit our targets in the forward 50 and give ourselves maximum opportunity to hit the scoreboard as much as possible. The question is, what are we going to do now with Josh Dacos? We have seen you put him in the midfield, and all of a sudden the game busted open. Personal opinion, you're going to have to play him at times in the midfield, and I think he is the perfect relief to go to the halfback and then bang, put him in the midfield as a rotation for 5-10 minutes throughout a quarter and allow the team to break open, give our mids a rest, allow the rotation and go from there. Do we play Tom Mitchell and Ned Logan the same side? I think this week we give it one more chance, my personal opinion. Whether they do or not's a different story. I think we give it one more chance this week. We've got and I said this last night on live, I've got a sample of how good it worked against Carlton. We've got a sample of it not really working that well and having sort of a ripple effect with other players like side bottom and stuff in the game against Gold Coast. Gold Coast are obviously a very fast, electric, breaking free side, where Carlton are sluggish, they're boring, they're labour intensive, and the style suited Tom Mitchell a lot better. We're playing against Fremantle. Fremantle, in my opinion, are a bit of both. They can drag you down to that contested bullshit style of football, or they're quick on the break like they were against Hawthorn. So it's very inconsistent with them. So I think this is the perfect game to sample, or to get an example, and see if this actually works or not. I was, at the start of the season, I was against it. I was like, I wouldn't even had Long in my best 23. Now he is in my best 23 every day of the week. Has Long's game dipped off a little bit in the last couple of weeks? Yeah, maybe it has a little bit. But what an opportunity now. We're back at the MCG to see what we can do against the Dockers. My predictions for the game is Jamie Elliott is going to get best on ground. He kicked 6 against Fremantle, I think, last time. I could be wrong. I think on the top of my head, I'm pretty sure he dobbed 6 that day. I reckon he's going to kick 5 this week. Wide ground, spread open. He's not going to have the main defender, which is a blessing in disguise. There was a comment last night on the live said, is Jamie Elliott's game, is it working with the Triple M's? Is it better? I think he's obviously had one of his best seasons ever, so I think with the Triple M's and the forward line, it complements his game. All the attention, all the main defenders go on them, and then you've got probably the best lead-up forward in the competition, who's dominating, and I think he's in the top 4 or top 5 in the Coleman medal this year, so, and he's not far off being first. So I've got Jamie Elliott for 5, which will give him the best on ground against Fremantle. I'm tipping the Pies by 17 points at the MCG. I reckon it's a Sunday afternoon at 3:15. I think the Pies I should be fairly comfortable towards the end of the game. With that being said, though, this is not going to be a walk in the park. Fremantle have so much to play for this week. They need to back up their win against Hawthorn. They need to try and cement themselves in the top 8. It's so congested underneath us, guys. I don't think we understand or don't think we can comprehend, because we're so focused on where we are, that if we slip down, everyone's pushing up. So we need to win this game. It is not a season-defining game, but it is a game where we now can set up the last portion of our season and go from there, because we've got some tough games coming up. After next week's game against Richmond, our finals campaign, in my opinion, it starts. So we can qualify, solidify ourselves in that part of the ladder, and then we can push on for there and hope for a glorious September. But without looking ahead too much, Fremantle are going to be a massive challenge for us at the MCG on Sunday. Make sure you drop a comment. Make sure you tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.